Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Well, it's nice to be back in Seattle. I have a bit of history with Seattle. I've been down here on a number of occasions. Steve Willem, where is he? Yeah, there he is. He gave me a ride over here, and we have a long history going back decades. So, and I've been telling the story since I got here about one of the visits, which was arranged in, I don't know, it might have been even before 2000. It might have been 1997 or something like. It's called Change Your Mind Day, and it was in the park. And it was like almost a national thing. All across the U.S., the various Buddhist groups would organize a Change Your Mind Day, and you just go to a park and be a series of people just giving talks in the park. It was a brilliant idea, because that's the way, at the time of the Buddha, that's where they taught, in the parks. And the Buddha would be out in the park, and you'd have a conversation with the Buddha, or Sariputta, Moggallana, or some of the great disciples, and then you'd walk away with your mind changed. So, yeah, we had and those were the days before internet and all that nice video access and so forth. So we had to actually transport our bodies places, and we didn't have money for flights and stuff, so we jumped in the van. I think we were at our second monastery, which was in Princeton, British Columbia, a nice 9-hour drive from Seattle. So I think it was they set me up a little slot in the afternoon in a park someplace, and so we jumped in the van and figured 9 hours should be enough to get there. Got held up at the border and on, but we managed to arrive like 30 seconds before I was supposed to go on. Ran for the stage and gave some sort of serenity meditation. Anyway, it worked. Then I've been down a few times as well. One time was a very nice journey, and the reason why it was nice was I wouldn't have to talk. I was actually going down to see Ajahn Sumedho in Seattle, which is his hometown. So it was a lovely visit. You know, I spent time with Ajahn Sumedho. Of course, I was in Thailand at Ajahn Chah's monasteries, the Wat International Forest Monastery as well. And so it was going to be very nice to see him in his hometown, and the real icing on the cake was the fact that I wouldn't have to speak. I get to listen to, you know, when you're a senior monk, and especially in Canada, you're a rare being, and so wherever you go, you have to speak. And that's a bit of a burden, unless you're a ham like me. But anyway, it was nice to go there and think, now I can just sit back and watch a senior monk give a Dhamma talk. So they brought me up to sit in line, and it was at Ajahn Ritti's place in Seattle. Have you been to the Thai Wat Atam, Ajahn Ritti? So I sat down, and there was a microphone like this. I'm thinking, this is going to be so nice, just listening to Ajahn Sumedho's dulcet baritone talk about the deathless, as he always does. The doors of the deathless are open. So, of course, Ajahn Ritti handed me the microphone and said, now, Ajahn Sona will speak for the next 30 minutes. And came out of my stupor. So you got to be ready at all times for this kind of situation. This is the nature of it. It's almost like a martial art, you know. You have to be do you remember some of those who have gray hair? Do you remember there was a movie called The Pink Panther? Peter Sellers as a detective in Paris. And he kept himself on tippy-toe by having his manservant, a Japanese manservant, attack him at any time without notice. And so sometimes you feel like this in the tradition. It's the forest tradition which I went to after the Sri Lankan tradition. I was ordained in West Virginia with Bhante Gunaratana. And the forest tradition has a tradition where generally junior monks don't give talks, and you have to have some seniority. And maybe if you're the second monk and you have 10 reigns and the abbot goes away, maybe you'll give a talk. But usually junior monks don't, except on one night of the year when that's the end of the reigns, and then they pass the microphone down the asana all the way down to the novices, and everybody gives a little trembling, failing, faltering, stuttering talk to reveal their vast wisdom that they accumulated during the rainy season. And it's always a semi-tragic, comic event. But the Sri Lankan tradition actually with Bhante Ji was even worse. I mean, I was like all of 2 weeks in the robes when he said, "Now you shall give a talk." So I researched something. But about 8 months in, I was invited to the Buddha's birthday in Washington, D.C., at the Washington Vihara. That is the first Theravada monastery in North America and South America. So the Sri Lankans arrived in about 1964. Bhante Gunaratana showed up about 1966 or 7 and became the second abbot of that place. And then eventually, through encouragement and beseeching from the young hippie Americans that was the 60s, they wanted to meditate. So he granted the idea that was establish a forest monastery. And that's where I arrived. That was the first Theravada forest monastery in the United States, and I came from Canada, arrived there, and I was the first one ordained there. But I'm all of 8 months in the robes, and we go to the Washington Vihara, and I'm told ahead of time, you're going to give a talk. There's a whole bunch it's an all-day affair, something like this, but even more people packed into the place. And I prepare my talk. I'm thinking about this for days. And I've been to university and everything, had to do talks. And of course, I was a classical guitarist before this, so I had to. So I've got about 8 minutes of material on loving kindness. I figured can't miss with that. It's packed. It's sweaty. It's packed. And Ananda Metteyya, the most senior monk in the world, is going to talk in the afternoon. My slot turns out to be the warm-up act for Ananda Metteyya, the 103-year-old president, the president of the 6th Council in Burma in 1954, this kind of like massively esteemed scholar, monk, and so forth. They're going to send me up there to talk before him. Another monk who has just recently done a PhD in Harvard and is dressed in a gold silk robe, he gives the first talk, and it turns, he says, we're meeting back there, like something like the green room here. I'm with all these very senior monks. I'm the absolute junior monk. And he says, I'm going to talk on Sila. And the next monk is going to be Venerable Rahula. He's an American monk, much senior to me at the time. He ends up talking on samadhi, or concentration. So now it's my time. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I notice the time. I come down the stairs. It's packed. And a professor from MIT, a lay Buddhist professor from MIT, is on the stage giving a talk on dependent origination and its relationship to probability, mathematical probability. But it's my time. And as I come down the stairs, Venerable Rahula passes me and he says, I gave a talk on samadhi, and I said, you're going to talk on wisdom. There goes my 8 minutes of metta out the window. I'm descending the stairs to my execution. as he says this to me on the way past, you're going to talk to, yeah, I think I suppose this is the way monasticism is. This is what you're supposed to do. You're be humiliated in public. And practice equanimity while you do this, you know. So, yes, that's good advice for all monastics who are present on stage. So sometimes you are humiliated in public, but so I get down there. The abbot of the monastery, and this is in Sri Lankan tradition, you know, the monks have very, very high esteem and lay people do not, especially. So he just walks up on the stage and interrupts the MIT professor in the middle of his talk and just get off. The monk's here. And he's got 8 months in the robes, so. I get up there, and he whispers, he leans over to me and whispers, Ananda Maitreya will be talking at 2:30, so keep talking until then. I look at the clock, it's 1 o'clock. I have 90 minutes to see my life flash before my eyes. I have to talk on wisdom for 90 minutes before the senior monk in the entire world gets up on stage, you know? So, fortunately, I had some experience playing jazz in the past. And I said, I think the first thing before we do anything is, out of compassion, you should all get up and stretch your legs and get some air, and so forth. I'm playing for time. And I still don't have time to collect myself. So finally, let that drag on for a while, and then everybody comes back, and I say, let's have a little bit of silent meditation as well. So let's just meditate quietly. By the way, this was what triggered me, this guided meditation. This triggered the story of this recollection. So I let this go on as long as possible, and I'm formulating possible anything I know about wisdom, you know. So finally, I do start talking, and I did make it to 2:30. You want to hear the story? One of the stories from the time? Yes? Yes? Okay. Well, I had to transition from samadhi to wisdom. So I don't know where I remembered this from, but there's a story. And it's about a famous yogi at the time in India. And he's very famous for going into deep, profound samadhi. It's so profound that he stops breathing for days at a time. And the king hears about this. And he says, I'd like to see this, kind of like, could we bring him to the palace and have him like demonstrate this? So he sends off messengers to this yogi. And he says, offer him whatever you want. So that the messengers go there and they say, the king would like you to come and demonstrate your samadhi in the courtyard here. And he says, why would I do that? Well, here's some money. I said, what do I need money for? You know, I'm a yogi. Comes back to the king. He's not interested. We offered him money, and he said, doesn't care. Well, go offer some to women. See if he likes young women. They offer him women. What do I need women for? They go back. He doesn't, nothing. And then they said, go back and ask him if there's anything he will do this for. And this guy, he's got one little thing. He's got a thing for horses. He's still fascinated by horses, the yogi. He says, if the king will give me his horse, his personal horse, and by the way, I mean, the king's horse is like a royal symbol, I will come and demonstrate this. So they come back and tell, he wants my horse? Like, what the? That's that's the royal. Okay, give him the horse. So he comes, and he says, not only will I do this demonstration, but I want you to bury me in a coffin, and I want to show you for 24 hours the depth of my samadhi. So they dig this hole, put him in a coffin, lower him down there, and everybody's gathered around. It's just breathless. This is astonishing. This yogi buried. How is he going to do this for 24 hours? It's the depth of his samadhi, fantastic. So they stand around for a couple hours, drinking tea and talking and so forth. Finally, they disperse, and in the middle of the night, the king dies. And they have to appoint a new king and everything. And this goes on for 5 days, the ceremonies and so forth. And then somebody remembers, the yogi. Yogi's still buried under there. Oh my God, we forgot the yogi. So they go and they dig him up. I'm sure he's dead, and he has this whole system where he's got clay up his nose and so forth, and he has this thing of how waking up, and you have to extract these things and then put oil on his forehead and his chest and so forth, and they do that. He looks dead. So finally they do this. They pull out the clay, the oil and so forth. They rub his chest, and he's alive. 5 days. He's been buried for 5 days. And he wakes up, slowly flickering his eyelids, and then sits up, and everybody is just waiting. And he says, "Where's my horse?" So that's the difference between samadhi and wisdom. Still not finished, right? Yeah. So that was my story. And now it's 10:30. I think I've talked my...
10:45.
Oh, it's still 10:45. Thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to, first of all, congratulate the Clear Mountain monks for organizing this visit. And, we do things together. We're from the same tradition. And they've done a marvelous job here. And some of you have been part of this for the last 4 years, so I appreciate their skills. And they're very unique in their capacities. Very gentle. They're gentlemen, they're really gentlemen, intelligent gentlemen, and good with people as well, and good with organizations. And they also have reached out. They make good friends with nuns communities here, and reach out. This whole area, British Columbia and Washington State, is more or less what I would call the new Gandhara. And not everybody is familiar with this, but Gandhara was a region in what we would call Afghanistan and Pakistan now, which was a hotbed of Buddhism. You don't think of Afghanistan as a hotbed of Buddhism, but some of the largest Buddha statues in the world were there. And if you remember, sometime in 2004, there was a famous incident. The Taliban shelled these 130-foot tall stone Buddha images because they don't like images. So a fantastic area. And this area is where a lot of cultures met. The culture of India, the culture of Greece, and Persia, they all met there. And so it goes back, and this is why I call it Gandhara. What we're meeting here, cultural Buddhists, the Sri Lankan community, the Thai community, the Burmese community, or Myanmar community, Lao, Cambodian, and of course Vietnam and so forth. These are all ethnic communities. They bring their monks sometimes, and they also explore this new phenomenon called Western monks. We've been at it for, in modern times, since the late 1800s. There's a few Western monks coming into the robes, and we've been at it, and it's ever growing. And the sisters as well. The bhikkhunis are appearing. This is like almost like unearthing that yogi. We thought it was dead, but no, it's alive still. And so this is a remarkable time. And we are actually reproducing a period of history that's remarkable. and many people don't know about this, but it's not the first time the West met the East and appreciated Buddhism back in this Gandhara area. Fantastic meeting of the Greek culture, Persian culture, and North Indian culture met, and the Greek monks were in the robes near the time of the Buddha, and it was vast and prolific. And so recently, by the way, I encourage you to watch a video on Ajahn Sona's YouTube channel about this called Greek and Persian Influence on Early Buddhism in India. And you will be, it needs to be restored. And so this phenomena that we're experiencing now, the Western monks coming and revising the culture, but still keeping all of this incredibly well-designed structures that go right back to the time of the Buddha, especially this thing called the Vinaya, the rules of conduct and behavior for monks and nuns. And we're maintaining this, especially in this particular tradition, this forest tradition from Thailand. And it is immensely flexible at the same time that it has a very high and reliable standard of safety and restraint in terms of the monastic Sangha, which is why it flourishes and why it's actually beautiful. You know, good behavior, classical behavior, is not unimaginative, it's actually graceful and beautiful. And actually that's how it's described in the tradition, as beautiful, you know. So we're bringing this in, and it's flourishing with contemporary culture as well. So this is part of this community's restoration of this. And this robe offering ceremony is beautiful. We have this wonderful opportunity to come and meet here and to hear Dhamma and the chanting and share the meal. Of course, the generosity is an intrinsic part of this whole process as well. So this is still flourishing and has this container which Ajahns Nispo and Kovilo are maintaining in a beautiful fashion. And we're also, they're diplomats as well. They reach out and connect, and so it's expansive as well. So that we appreciate that aspect of this community as they move towards having their own place. This is actually a very, very nice setting for this practice. Very fortunate that you can borrow off the Catholics. Yeah. Nice. I understand also they mentioned that Ajahn Sumedho has some history in Seattle, of course, is a big Catholic area. And Ajahn Sumedho apparently was a altar boy here when he was 11 years old. He was an altar boy. This is absolutely amazing, isn't it? The great Ajahn Sumedho, who's now in his 90s and the esteemed abbot at Amaravati, the senior monk of our tradition, was right here holding some candles or something. Yes. So as a theme, aside from the samadhi wisdom connection, which is not very relevant to most people's lives, but I like to speak about what is useful in your daily lives. And there are two things that are very useful, particularly for this time and this place, and this overwrought, accelerated period of history. We're at a point in history which is extremely accelerated in terms of technology and so forth. We just got our heads around the internet, and now apparently AI, whatever that is about to eat us alive. So I thought that the two themes, which I teach quite often at Birken Monastery, is that there are two aspects to keep, and that one of them is a cool head. And the cool head is Now, what we've produced here in the last few centuries by our focus on science, technology, and excessive amounts of information is a very hot head, a head that is immersed in continuous discursive activity. And it's so much discursive activity that it can't stay on the rails. Sometimes it can't keep on a single type of focus of discursive activity. It keeps fragmenting and going off on sidetracks, what they call ADD or ADHD, broken concentration, unable to stay single-pointedly on a single topic. And so this is pervasive, and people are noticing it. They are not comfortable with it. It's a form of suffering. So there is no encouragement in the educational system or in the social vernacular to do anything the opposite of this. They don't know how to wind this down. But of course, meditation has made its appearance in the West. Quite often the meditations that they talk about are actually just other kind of thinking processes. But to wind the mind's excessive activity down, this poor frontal cortex we have, our radiator in our car, to cool that down is to experience the value of non-discursive activity, trusting that it's not simply not doing your due diligence or your thinking projects, and it's not dangerous at all, actually, to allow the value of cooling the mind and not always involved in endless streams of thoughts is a beautiful thing. And of course in Seattle, with all this nature around, it's a very good thing to go into nature, spend some time just feeling the breeze blowing across your face, quiet, away from the noise of the news and the information overload, etc. This is what I call the cool head. And of course, come to meditation. And I do encourage, by the way, a lot of the types of schools of meditation are actually vipassana or kind of analytical types. I'm trying to restore more of a open samadhi, open, cool, less encouragement of discursive activity. And that allows you to experience, perhaps for the first time, since you were a child. I think most children have periods of time of non-discursive activity where they're just they're just being, and they're feeling the breeze against and they haven't gone to school yet, so they don't feel guilty about that. So this is something to become as a little child once more, actually. I'm borrowing from the New Testament, by the way. Jesus, who happened to be a Buddhist monk. Cut that out of the, edit that out, Madison. Edit that. I didn't say that. Yes, so the cool head is extremely valuable for our particular time in history. And the second thing that's extremely valuable and you can't do without is the warm heart. So there's two parts. One is the cool head. And this is good advice for how to get a good night's sleep as well. Open the window, get some fresh air in the room, in the bedroom, and have a nice down comforter or vegan comforter, whatever you want. And keep your body warm right up to the neck, but keep your head out and let that be cool. And you will find that that's the balance. That's the balance that you seek. The head itself should be cool, should not be fevered with excessive thought and the freshness of the air. But the body from here down, it loves warmth. And there's one primary emotion which gives you that warmth and which you will never feel well and complete when it's absent, in its absence. And that is what we call the safety of goodwill, of loving kindness or friendliness. That is profound, and this is the nature of friendliness itself, is that it is profoundly safe. You will feel safe in this warmth of the heart. And this is a balance, and they're not in conflict with each other at all. They work perfectly together. It is, remember that thing where on the playground where you tapped your head and rubbed your stomach at the same time? A lot of people can't do that, but you should practice. As two little activities can be done, you tap your head and rub your stomach at the same time. I know you want to rub your head and your belly at the same time, or you want to tap both of them, but no. You tap the head and rub the stomach at the same time, and they're two different things. But that's the balance. That's what works. It's that balance of this cool head and the warm heart. And my time's up.
Han tamayang tamakataya sadhu karangatamase sadhu 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 anumodami.
By the way, stay tuned to Ajahn Sona's YouTube channel, and sometime in the future, within the next year, 16 talks called Cool Head, Warm Heart will appear, highly edited, the combination of 2 10-day retreats I just gave to the Pacific Hermitage in May. So you just got a little taste of that, a little teaser of that, but there will be 16 full talks on that subject.
Thank you. Sadhu.